Over the weekend, I got something from Brother Dave, a.k.a. Irish Dave, who sends me links to articles every once in a while that, sometimes are things I can use on the program, and sometimes they're very interesting to me, but I just think, well, maybe later, Dave. But he sent me one this weekend that I've got to share with you, and it comes from the Philadelphia Inquirer. And it's written by Will Bunch. Maybe you know his name. He is an excellent reporter, opinion writer, yada with the Inquirer. More of an opinion writer than he is a reporter. But the point he makes in this piece that Irish Dave sent me is how seriously the Democrats are sealing their own doom by selling out, ignoring the young voters who put them in office. Boy, this is a real betrayal. Let me just say, first of all, what do you mean, let me just say? I hate that phrase. When people say that, let me just say, excuse me, I didn't mean to say that. I will say this. The baby boom generation, and I'm not part of it. I was born before the baby boom generation. So I can be as critical as I want to be and point fingers and go, yeah, you bastards. But the baby boom generation has so screwed up, so left the next 2 or 3 generations coming up behind it with nothing, worse than nothing, with destruction. What did the baby boom generation do? I mean, seriously, come on. What did the baby boom generation do? Well, it continued the war crimes that started with the development of the atomic bomb. It ignored young people, going all the way back to the, what was the Bay City Manifesto? Was it Bay City Manifesto? Written by the people who were involved in Students for Democratic Society. It ignored every single young spokesman in the 60s who were trying to make a point. Now, there were some assholes in the 60s in the youth movement who decided to make bombs, and a couple of them blew themselves up. And well, I truly believe that violence is never, I better rephrase that violence should only be used when, how to put that? Let me I'll make it a conditional. Violence, I feel now, is never justified when you are talking politics. Now, sometimes it is, but oh, hell. I get into these boxes sometimes and don't know how to get out. Let me just move past it. All the student activism in the 60s and 70s that was so profound, so trying to focus the adults on what young people demanded. And a lot of those young people turned out to be phonies. Yes, I admit and agree. But the issues were put out there, and the leadership of this country ignored what the young people were saying, totally ignored it. Not only ignored it, but turned it on its ass by just doing exactly the opposite of what young people were demanding, were saying. I watched all this happen. Now, I don't claim to be in the boom generation, but I only missed it by about 2 or 3 years, and I was involved in a lot of that protest. Whether it was a protest against environmental degradation or against nuclear anything, or against wars that seem to be wars of opportunity for the United States government in so many instances. Yeah, I was there. I participated. I got arrested. I got gassed. Big fucking deal. It didn't mean anything. I mean, it really didn't. And I think about all the people who did, the millions of young people who did participate. All the way up to 2003, when millions of us around the globe, and I wasn't young in 2003, but millions of us around the globe protested what the war criminal George Walker Bush was about to perpetrate against the people in Iraq. And this is after he invaded the country of Afghanistan. It just goes on and on, never stops, does it? So the anti-war movement that began in earnest in the 60s, 40 years later, it's still being ignored. In 2003. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, young people have that resilience that comes from being young. And as each new generation has come up since the 60s, maybe not a new generation, but as each group of young people reaches maturity, when they reach their 18, 20, 21, 25 years of age, and they see what is happening, and they decide, listen, we've got to bring a stop to this. This involves our future, our kids, our grandkids, if we're ever going to have any that will survive. This has got to stop. And of course, the pressure now is about global climate change. And I think the last big protest I got involved in was just that. It was in New York City. Sam Cedar, we met up with him, and Tara Devlin, and some other people. I don't know if Robin was there or not, but a lot of people that I knew from the anti-war days or the environmental days showed up for that massive march up Central Park West into Midtown Manhattan. And it was all about stopping this continued refusal to acknowledge that global warming is going to kill everything on this planet and what had to be done to stop it. And I think about all the demonstrations I've been involved in. I think about all the demonstrations of people I know. And then last summer, Molly and I marched several times in the Black Lives Matter movement, on and on and on and on, trying to show with our bodies, with the masses of people, this is not what we want. This is not what we want. And the power that runs everything, capitalism and the Christian fascists in this country, ignore us. Just fucking ignore us. Oh, look, 700,000 people showed up for a march. Okay, now the sports scores. I mean, it's just, on one hand, infuriating. And on the other hand, just so, I don't know, it just leaves me feeling dead inside. It's like fighting against ghosts. Why am I saying all this? Well, let me give you an example. Samuel Weinberg. This is what Will wrote about this issue. He starts with Samuel Weinberg. Back in the summer of 2020, this was a suburban Chicago teenager. And we're talking eons ago, right? The summer, last summer. But he was a Chicago teenager, and he had a progressive political cause, and that was defeating the orange vomit and convincing other young people that voting for an old man who is struggling, struggling just to retain a grasp of the present, this septuagenarian, this lifelong conservative Democrat, although a lot of people identify him as a moderate, I don't. I'm talking about Joe Biden. And what Sam Weinberg was doing was trying to convince other young people that Joe Biden was the only way to defeat the orange vomit. And he had a plan. And according to Will, the name of the popular Instagram handle that Sam Weinberg created was called Settle for Biden. Settle for Biden. And it had a meme-laden strategy, which included pictures of Biden under the words, "He'll do," or Biden kneeling in front of a blackboard with the photoshopped words, "Because a C+ is better than an F," comparing Biden to the scum bastard Donald Trump. And all of it seems to have helped. On November 3rd, voters in the 18 to 29-year-old demographic turned out in higher numbers than past elections. They were energized, not just by Sam Weinberg, but by their own self-interest, by talking among themselves, by other young leaders. And they voted strongly for Biden over the orange vomit. And these young people clearly tipped the scales in electoral states that could go either way, like Georgia. And the Democrats, through their efforts, through the young people, just barely got control in Washington. So here we are, 9 months later. Actually, from the election, we're about 11 months later. But about 9 months from the inauguration. And Biden is struggling to earn even that C plus that Sam Weinberg put in a graphic with the C plus is better than an F on his Instagram account. At least on his first report card from America's young voters. What has Biden done? He is buckling in under to people like Joe Manchin, who do not give a rat's ass about young people. The only people that Joe Manchin seems obligated to support, to do their bidding, is corporate America, and the worst part of corporate America, the carbon industry. You son of a bitch, Manchin. So Manchin is throwing off all the young people who made a supreme effort in order to satisfy the extraction industry. Way to go, Biden. I'm sorry, way to go, Manchin. And Biden, I mean, he had some good ideas, didn't he? The Build Back Better idea. And he's collapsing. The Build Back Better idea is the core, the heart of the Democratic Party. It's not the progressive wing. It's the heart of the Democratic Party. How in the hell it's been identified by the media as the progressive wing, and as creeps like Sinema and Manchin are the moderate my ass. And young people look at the kind of terminology being thrown around. Oh, these are moderates? These aren't moderates. These are fucking murderers. They're voting against the future. I mean, oh, God. And then last week, the headlines that the idea of free community college is being kicked to the curb like a barrel of garbage. Free community college. And that Manchin has ripped the guts out of its climate strategy. Along with this waiting for Godot-like wait for major action on student debt. All of these are issues that should affect every American, but severely affects young people. Young people who decided to roll the dice on Joe Biden and the Democrats. You know what's going to happen in 2022? You know, I shouldn't ask a question, I should make it a statement. You know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. The young people, black folk, are going to say, you know, we tried one more time. We tried one more time. And the Democratic Party abandoned us. So fuck it. It is just so unbelievable that Democrats in the Congress and in the White House, as Will puts it, have seemingly punted on third down when it comes to the matters that young America cares about. Given what happened in 2020. College voters in particular strongly supported Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren in the early Democratic primaries. Those are two Democrats. But as they say, you vote your heart in the primaries, you vote your brain in the general. So many college students overcame any doubts they had about Biden's past record as a conservative Democrat, and they rallied behind him when the alternative was this filthy, rotten, vomitous bastard Donald Trump. Now, there was some research done at Tufts University and it found that 18 to 29-year-old turnout had increased substantially from about 42% in 2016, when youth apathy was one of the keys to the Orange Vomit's victory. It went from that to up almost 14 percentage points. Around 56% last year turned out to vote for Biden. Or they turned out to vote, but those voters went for Biden 61% to 36%. Yes, sadly, disgustingly, rottenly, filthily, pick a word. We had 36% of our youth vote for the scum-sucking Nazi Donald Trump or some other candidate. Hell, I don't know if there was a third-party candidate. All I knew was if Biden didn't win, the country was dead. And now, if the Democrats don't expand their control in 2022, the country's dead. It's that simple. The researchers at Tufts University found that the votes of young people, this group, this key demographic, 18 to 29-year-olds, that their votes put the Democrats over the top in Pennsylvania, Michigan, here in Georgia, and Arizona. Without those 4 states, do you realize where we would be now with a second Trump presidency and the Republicans in control of the House and the Senate? Holy fuck, do you realize what's going to happen in 2022 and 2024 when these young voters say, you know, we gave it our best shot? But we're not going to be like some of you crazy people have been demonstrating for shit for 50 years and have gotten nothing. We're not going to do that. Adios. Goodbye and thanks for all the fish. And they're gone. And who's to blame them? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.